Dear students, welcome to a new class on example from class Reptilia, that is Chameleon. Chameleon belongs to the phylum Chordata, subphylum Vertebrata, division Gnathostomata, superclass Tetrapoda and class Reptilia. Chameleon is an arboreal lizard. Arboreal means tree living. It is found in India, Africa and Madagascar. The body is scale covered. And the scales are peculiar in that they are modified into granular tubercles. You can see the scales are modified into tubercles, granular tubercles. On the mid-dorsal line of the neck, this is the neck region and the trunk region. On the mid-dorsal line of the neck and the trunk region, we can see that the scales are modified into the saw-like structures, the teeth of a saw. They look like the teeth of a saw. So this is called as a serrated dorsal crest. So this forms the crest and the head bears a prominent helmet or a hood. You can see here, prominent helmet or hood. Now coming to sexual dimorphism. What is sexual dimorphism? These are the features by which we can distinguish between male and female. So here this is the foot of a male, where on the ankle or the tarsus region you can see a bony outgrowth which is covered by a horny sheath or a covering, and this bony outgrowth is called as a tarsal spur. This is found only in males. It is used during mating, or it is seen during its function is during the breeding season. You cannot see it in a female. So this is one of the features with which we can identify between male and female. And males are more ornamental also. They are more colored compared to the females. So the presence of tarsal spur in males is an example of sexual dimorphism you can see in Cameleo species. Now coming to the hands and the feet. The hands and feet, they are most used as grasping organs for a tree dwelling habit. And you can see the digits. The digits are having claws at their ends. So they are clawed digits. Coming to the peculiar arrangement of the digits. You can see the digits are not fully independent. They are partially fused. Here the 2 digits are fused. Here also the 3 digits are partially fused. And what peculiarity can you see in their arrangement? They are not facing the same direction, or they are not in the same orientation. These 2 digits form a bundle. These 3 digits form another bundle, and these 2 bundles face each other. So you can say the digits are placed in the form of opposable bundles. This condition is called zygodactyly. So this is the foot, where you can see the 2 inner toes are opposing the 3 outer toes. So the 3 outer toes oppose the 2 inner toes. This condition is called zygodactyly. Why is it so? Since the digits are placed as opposable bundles, the hands and feet, they form excellent grasping organs by which they can strongly grasp the tree trunks. Here also you can see how the opposable bundles of digits help in grasping tree branches. So this condition, once again I remind you, is called as zygodactyly. So this is the arrangement in foot, whereas in hands, the opposite, that is 3 inner ones will oppose 2 outer ones. Whereas in foot, 2 inner toes oppose 3 outer toes. Now another adaptation. Look at its tail. The tail is prehensile. That means it is used for holding on to tree branches. The tail also helps in holding on to tree branches, and it can be rolled downwards, as you can see here. The tail is actually used as a 5th limb to hold on to tree branches. So apart from the hands and the feet, the tail is also an excellent grasping organ which can be rolled, and it is also used for holding on to the tree branches. Now coming to the feeding, it is an insectivore, and its tongue, it is the most important organ that helps in food capture, in prey capture. The tongue, as you can see, is a long structure. It is cylindrical as well as it is hollow. So it is long, cylindrical and hollow, and it has got two parts. This is the basal part and this is the club shaped end. So the tip is club shaped. Not only it is club shaped, it is sticky. You can see an insect stuck on to its tongue. The base is narrow. Now, in the basal part, there are elastic fibers which are arranged in the form of coils just like a spring. So elastic fibers are seen in the base region just like coils of a spring. So when not in use, the basal portion, it is mounted upon a structure which is called as the lingual process. There is a bone which is supporting the tongue which is called as a hyoid, and on the hyoid there is a process which is called as the lingual process, and it is on the lingual process that the basal portion of the tongue is mounted when it is in rest. So at rest, the tongue is mounted on the basal process or the lingual process of the hyoid. Now, when the prey comes in range, the tongue is shot out with lightning speed, and sharply precise shooting out is done. So it can shoot out its tongue very sharply on the prey. The prey will get attached to the tip of the tongue, and the tongue will be soon withdrawn into the mouth. And because of this marvelous mechanism, it need not move around in search of food. It doesn't need rapid movements in search of food, but it can just stick out its tongue and make its prey get stuck to it, and it can retract its tongue very fastly. So it's a kind of amplification mechanism by which it can ballistically project its tongue as far as 2 body lengths from their mouth to capture the prey. So in that much distance and that much speed, it can stick out its tongue. And this is brought about with the help of certain muscles which are there in the tongue. Even up to 30 centimeter, the tongue can be shot out. So what are the reasons for this ability? One is due to the extreme elasticity of the tongue because of the presence of elastic fibers. And second is, into the hollow spaces, blood can be forced into. Blood can be forced into the hollow spaces, and these two give sufficient strength. So elasticity, which is provided by the elastic muscle fibers, as well as the filling of the hollow spaces with blood. And when it is shot out, at the heavy tip there will be large momentum. So the momentum of the heavy tip, it will carry the tongue forwards until the basal part is under tension. And once tension is built up, when tension builds up, the tongue will be withdrawn. So the large momentum, it will help in sticking out the tongue until tension develops in the basal region. When tension develops in the basal region, the tongue will be withdrawn. So another feature is that for such a mechanism to be successful, it has to have a correct estimation of the prey also. There should be an accurate estimation of the distance of the prey. So how is this made possible? For that we will come to the vision in chameleon. Chameleon is having both binocular vision as well as monocular vision. But binocular vision is more important for its tree-dwelling life. So what is the difference between the two? Binocular vision is what we have. That means in organisms having binocular vision, the eyes are frontally placed. That means both the eyes are frontally placed. What do you mean by that? Each eye will have its own field of vision. In the case of binocular vision, a large area or the area of vision of one eye largely overlaps the area of vision of the other eye. That is what is called as binocular vision. That is what we have. Whereas there are some organisms, you take the case of fishes or other reptiles, where you can see each eye is placed on one side of the head region. So the eyes are placed on the sides of the head. Each eye will have its own range of vision. That is called monocular vision. So in monocular vision, each eye is having its own image. The area of overlap will be very less. But each eye is having its own vision. Each eye is having its own two-dimensional image in motion. But this type of vision is very poor in judging the distance, depth, etc. Whereas in binocular vision, both eyes are used together to perceive motion of an object by tracking the differences in size, location, depth, angle, etc. So, in estimating distance as well as depth, binocular vision is better. So, the chameleon, unlike other lizards, is having binocular vision, which will help in accurately judging the distance. So, it is by this accurate judgment or measurement of the distance that it is able to stick out its tongue precisely on the prey. So, that is another feature. Now, coming to the eyes, you can see the eyes are large and they are independently movable. That means the eyes are rotating. They can be independently rotated. You can see here, the eyes are independently rotated, movable. And there is a pupil which is like a transverse slit. The whole eye excepting the pupil is covered by a thick glandular lid. You can see the glandular lid like covering of the eye. And as already mentioned, the eye can revolve in all directions independently of each other in search of the prey. And each eye is having its own range of vision. The right and left eyes can be focused simultaneously for different objects and also for the same object. That means it is having both monocular vision as well as binocular vision. Then binocular vision helps in estimating the distance of the object. So the presence of large revolving eyes, that is also a characteristic feature of chameleon by which it can change its area of vision for the two eyes. Now coming to some other features, mostly they are territorial. The males are territorial, they establish their own territories. An example is Cameleo jacksoni. Now coming to their morphology again, this Cameleo jacksoni is important for, or it is noteworthy for the presence of horns. You can see horns. It possesses 3 horns on the head. That is an important feature of Cameleo jacksoni. So what does these help in? They help in species recognition between the sexes and also in fighting between the males for their mate. So this is a kind of ornamentation which you cannot see in all the chameleons, but this is characteristic of Cameleo jacksoni, which is a native of East Africa but later introduced to islands like Hawaii, Florida, California, etc. That is a morphological feature. You cannot see in all chameleons the presence of horns. So it is having 3 horns, one on the other side. Then, now the ability of color change, which is called as camouflage. And usually it is found in green, varying in shade from pale green to almost blackish green. Under excitement, the body becomes mottled or marbled with specks or patches, yellow, blue bands, etc. Transverse bands can be seen. So the mechanism of color change depends on the activity of pigment cells in the skin, and these are called as the chromatophores. So the skin is having a superficial layer which contains pigments, and under this layer there are cells which contain very small crystals. They are called as guanine crystals. So by tuning the light receiving response of these crystals, they can change color. So they change color by actively tuning the photonic response of these guanine crystals. And by this tuning, the wavelength of light reflected from the crystals will change, and this will change the color of the skin also. So the tuning mechanism changes the wavelength of the light reflected off from the crystals, which will change the color of the skin. So it depends upon the color of the environment. With color changes in the environment, the photonic responses of these crystals will vary, and the wavelength of light reflected from the crystals will also change, which will change the color of the skin. So it's like a give and take mechanism. That means it is taking cues from the environment. That means it is receiving signals from the environment, and as a response it is showing color change. Now what are its functions? Mainly camouflage. That means it is a method of disguise from its enemies, predators, etc. But it is also used in social signaling in between the species, and also as reactions to temperature. Since reptiles are cold-blooded, they have to, however, cope up with the changes in the temperature changes in the environment. So when they switch over to a darker color, it will absorb light and heat so that the body temperature rises. So during cold environments, if they switch over to a darker color, more light and heat will be absorbed so that their body temperature will be increased. Whereas when it is very hot outside, they can switch over to a lighter color, which will reflect light and heat, thereby reducing the body temperature. So camouflage is not only meant for concealing itself from the predators or enemies, but also for helping itself from the adverse effects of temperature, and also as a means of social signaling. You can see the camouflage here. Here in this environment, it is completely blended with the environment. You can see another one here and here. So that is what is called as camouflage. Now coming to the reproduction. They are oviparous or egg laying. Most of them are oviparous. The number of eggs per clutch will vary with species and also with the body size. So usually with chameleons having in higher body size will be laying more eggs. The clutch size will be more. An example is that of Cameleo melleri or Meller's chameleon. As you can see here, it is one of the largest chameleons. It can lay up to 70 eggs at a time. In a clutch, 70 eggs can be laid. The females usually bury the eggs in the ground, as you can see here, rotting logs and other safe and moist places. So these are some of the features about chameleon. Now coming to the arboreal adaptations once again. That means the tree living adaptations. First one is the presence of a zygodactylous hand and zygodactylous feet, which are modified as grasping organs to firmly hold on to tree branches. Second is the long and prehensile tail, which will help it to hold on to tree branches. Then the tongue, which is long, extensile and sticky, which will help in food capture. Then the large independently revolving eyes for searching the prey, like telescopic eyes. Binocular vision, power for estimation of distance. Then its ability to change color, the power for adaptive or matching color changes for camouflage, concealment, protection, self-defense, etc. So with this we cover some of the important features of Cameleo. Thank you.